Good morning, everyone. My name's Linda Sharrock. I'm from Australia, Adelaide, Australia. This isn't. It's not for. It's not for sound. It's for the. It's for the camera. You barely hear me. That's great. I'm not really a screamer, so I'll try to lift up my voice. Today, I wanted to talk about a tale of two women. I went to India recently, and they asked me to do something, and I thought I'm really struck by about the differences in women in the Bible and how women influence. So in Scripture today, women play powerful roles that influence families, nations, and even kings. Today we're going to discuss two women. One thing I have in our business, in the type of people that we support, because we do what we call in-home care. We do in-home care, so we deal with a lot of people with disabilities, mental health. We deal with all sorts of different people. And one part that I find very interesting is behaviour. Now, does anybody here study behaviour at all? I really enjoy behaviour. One thing you learn about behaviour is that people do certain things to get what they want because it works. I always think of the toddler at the supermarket, and they want a lollipop or they want something and they're begging mum for it. Mum says, no, I want a lollipop. No, I want a lollipop. No. Next thing, the child's on the floor, kicking, screaming, embarrassing mum. And inevitably, mum goes, shut up, just have the lollipop. So the kid then goes, that worked. I know what to do next time to get the lollipop. So it's very interesting in our behaviour. We all have tricks. Every single one of us has tricks that we use to get something that we want, whether that be from our husband, our children, our workplace or friends, something we want, in business, whatever it is, we have tricks that we use. And you see it. People they do something and it gets them what they wanted. So consequently, what that does though, it reinforces not only good behaviour, it actually reinforces really bad behaviour. So the two women that I want to discuss today, anyone give me an idea of who they think would be an interesting person to discuss, a woman? Yeah? Yeah? Well, I've got two women today I'm talking about. I've got a good one and a bad one. I'm going to talk about our bad girl first. And I decided to talk about Delilah. Now, Delilah's an interesting character. My husband mentioned Jezebel, and I think Jezebel gets picked on a lot. She really does. Not that she was a good person at all, but the interesting thing about it is the behaviours that these women that they actually displayed. So Delilah in Judges 16, whose actions led to betrayal, destruction, and then we have Abigail, whose wisdom and courage brought peace, preservation, and their stories highlight the choices that we all face to use our influence for harm or for good. So, talking about Delilah, I call it the cautionary example. The scriptures that I've got, and I'm not going to read all of it because it's going to take forever, but we're looking at Judges 16, 4 to 22. So I'm just going to highlight the scriptures that pick out the parts that I want. We don't have a lot of time, as you can understand. But Delilah said to Samson, please tell me where your great strength lies and with what you may be bound to afflict you. So then he starts saying, do this and do that, and, then I'll be just like any other man. But then Delilah says to Samson, you've mocked me. You've told me lies. Now please tell me what you may be bound with. So he says, if they bind me securely with new ropes that have never been used, then I shall become weak and be like any other man. Therefore Delilah took new ropes, bound him with them, and said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson, and men are lying in wait, staying in the room. But he broke them off his arms like a thread. Then she says to him, how can you say that I love you when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me these 3 times and have not told me where your great strength lies. And it came to pass that when she pestered him daily with her words and pressed him so that his soul was vexed to death, that he told her all his heart and said to her, No razor has ever come upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite to God from my mother's womb. If I am shaven, then my strength will leave me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man." When Delilah saw basically that he had finally told her the truth, she sent and called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, "Come up once more, for he has told me all that's on his heart." So that the lords of the Philistines came up to her and brought her the money in their hand. Then she lulled him to sleep on her knees and called for a man who had him shave off the 7 locks of his head. Then she began to torment him, and his strength left him. And she said, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." So he awoke from his sleep and said, "I will go out as before, at other times, and shake myself free." But he did not know that the Lord had now departed from him. So, like the toddler, I want that lollipop, chucking a tantrum, which is what she did. She threw an absolute tantrum, and he finally gave in and says, this is what makes me strong. And consequently, we know this story where God leaves him. The key traits, I think, that I saw with Delilah here, and I've met people like this, manipulative and deceptive. She used charm to extract Samson's secret. I think she used a bit more than that. She started to, when she felt that he wasn't listening and she knew he wasn't being honest with her, she starts to really press it. Who's ever met people like that? You've met people like that. They start using manipulation. They start lying to you, which is deception. So she did this and she got him to where she wanted him, but did it really help her? No. She was also driven by greed. She betrayed Samson for money, which is in Judges 16:5. So she's being motivated by money here. She wants money. It's not just to get Samson to tell a lie or to reveal his secret. What she's actually looking for is money. So she's been offered money by the Philistines. Get this guy to give up his secret. We will pay you. We'll pay you well. So she's driven by this. So she's now driven by money and going, I'm going to do what I can to do this. And it worked. She got what she wanted by using her behaviours, by using her manipulation and her deception. She was unfaithful and self-serving, so she cared more about pleasing the Philistines than by protecting her relationships. Somehow, as human beings, we can be very, we self-sabotage almost. And this is what I see with this lady here. She got some money. Yes, she got some, recognition by the Philistines, and I guess in some way it met some kind of need for her. But she didn't care about her relationship with Samson. She really cared about what she could get. And I've got to ask the question, did it really help her? Did getting what she wanted, did that really help her? Did it help her as a person, or did it just give her that very short gain of a few dollars and the Philistines going, "Oh, you're great, thank you for doing that for us"? Somehow she thought that was going to fulfill a need in her. She also used this and she revealed his weakness. She exposed his vulnerability to temptation and disobedience. Is that a good thing for somebody to want to do to another person? I don't think so. I think as a person, as a human being, as a woman, that we need to be protecting others. And I look at, in this situation, I don't know if you use this saying about, looking out for others' backs, looking out for protecting each other, supporting each other. And I think as women, we need to be definitely doing that, looking out for each other, protecting each other, not going, "Oh, well, I know a secret about this person. I think I'm going to reveal that secret. I think makes me look good if I can say something bad about somebody." Whereas if she'd protected her husband, if she'd actually protected him, then maybe she could have had a good life. But instead, I often wonder what happened to her after all of this. She got what she wanted in the short term, but in the long term, did that really help her? Did that help her in her career, in her life, in her standing? I don't know about you, but the reality is, if I knew Delilah then, there's no way, even though she may not have done anything to me directly, just by watching her, I'm not going to trust her. I'm not going to tell her a secret. I'm not going to go, hey, you know, I'm having a really hard time at the moment. I've got this problem, I've got that problem, and my kids are this and this is that. Can you imagine that? My thought is she's going to run off and she's going to tell somebody else. And she's going to expose me, even though I've told her something in confidence. So it's really important, I think, to think about the damage that someone like Delilah does. I actually saw a Delilah-like behaviour. Now, as I said, we have a business, and we had a girl who was working for us, and she always had a little bit of a... My husband said one day he saw she was at the Christmas party, and the way she was dressed, he said, Linda, I just felt I needed to stay away from her. I didn't want to go near her. I just felt, don't look at her, just move away. And so anyway, I'd never thought much about it. I knew she was a little bit loose. I didn't really care. It wasn't something I was really worried about. But she got involved with one of the men in the business, and it never went the full way, but he was trying to, you know, do the deed with her, but she was using him because he was actually in a position of power, I guess. He was one of the managers there, and so she had him believing that she was ready to leave with him, that she was going to run away with him, they were going to have a relationship, and he thought she was the most beautiful thing on this earth. But she always kept him at a distance, never quite letting him get that close. So it never went the full way, which was good, but he was convinced. And she was what she was actually looking for from him was actually information, which was really bizarre. Like, she wanted to know secrets. What do you guys talk about in the back room there? What's the business, you know, what higher things are you talking about? And he would tell her everything. We'd have, there'd be conversations, and he was just revealing everything to this girl. And so one day it got exposed, and she would have kept this going for a long time had it not been exposed. But once it got exposed, we ended up moving him on. We ended up a long story to get rid of her, but it was a, and I often wonder, what did she benefit? I really don't know what she benefited. Yes, she heard about some of the things that we talked about in some of the bigger meetings. I don't know what benefit that was to her. They were business meetings. It was about the business. It wasn't about her. But she wanted to know secrets. She was really into the secrets. And I'm like, okay. So I guess one of the things that I, after watching that and seeing the damage that was done, and then finding out that she actually had done this in a previous workplace, and she got money out of it. She got money from us. It was cheaper to pay her out than to deal with the government and our fair work laws in Australia. So, but I think nobody trusts her. And I think her going to another job, I don't know if they'll trust her either. But we shouldn't be manipulating other for personal gain. And the other thing is, be careful whom you trust your heart and secrets with. Make sure you can trust the people that you are revealing your secrets. It's really important to have a friend or have somebody that you can actually say, I'm struggling, I've got this situation. It's really important to have that person, but make sure it's not Delilah who's going to use that information to manipulate you or to get personal gain. Influence can be destructive when used for selfish purposes, which is what happened here with Delilah. Seeking to please people or for profit can lead to betraying God's calling in your life. So that's talking about Delilah. Just any quick questions about Delilah, or maybe someone's got a confession, or, you know, has anyone got any input on Delilah? No, we don't want to talk about Delilah. Part 2 of this, we want to talk about Abigail. She's the complete opposite. I remember when I did this in India, everyone said, I really enjoyed Abigail. But I think Abigail's really important and she's really powerful, but without understanding the opposite, which is a Delilah, it's hard to understand how wonderful and how powerful this lady actually is. So the scriptures I'm looking at for this one is 1 Samuel 25, 2-24. And again, I'm just going to read out a couple because otherwise it's a really long piece of scripture. But we know the story where David heads in. David's there. He's got his men, and he's looking for some help from Nabal, which is Abigail's husband. And Nabal doesn't want to help. But then Abigail made haste, took 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 sheep already dressed, 5 seahs of roasted grain, 100 clusters of raisins, and 200 cakes of figs. Loaded them on the donkeys, and she said to her servants, "Go on before me. See, I am coming after you." But she did not tell her husband Nabal. Now when Abigail saw David, she dismounted quickly from the donkey, fell on her face before David, and bowed down to the ground. She fell at his feet and said, "On me, O Lord, let this iniquity be, and please let your maidservant speak in your ears and hear the words of your maidservant. Please let not my Lord regard this scoundrel Nabal." Fancy talking to a husband like that anyway. "For as his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and folly is with scent. Now therefore, my Lord, as the Lord lives and your soul lives, since the Lord has held you back from coming to bloodshed and from avenging yourself, be as with your own hand, then let your enemies and those who seek harm for my Lord be as Nabal. Now this present which your maidservant has brought to my Lord, let it be given to the young men who follow my Lord. Please forgive the trespasses of your maidservant, for the Lord will certainly make for my Lord an enduring house, because the Lord fights the battles of the Lord, and evil is not found in you throughout your days." So what you've got is, here's Abigail. She's actually coming to David, and she's really making sure that he doesn't kill her husband and doesn't kill the men, because I guess it was part of the custom that he should have been looked after. Then going on to Abigail a bit further, this is verse 36. "Now Abigail went to Nabal, and there he was holding a feast in his house like the feast of a king. And Nabal's heart was merry within him, for he was very drunk, and therefore she told him nothing, little or much, until morning light. So it was in the morning, when the wine had gone from Nabal, and his wife had told him these things, that his heart died within him, and he became like a stone. Then it happened about 10 days that the Lord struck Nabal, and he died." So it's very clear. It's actually very clear here that what Nabal did was really unrighteous. But here's Abigail. She steps in, and she brings peace, and she stops a disaster happening. The things we learn about Abigail here is that she's wise and she's intelligent. She quickly recognised danger and acted with discernment. She jumped in. I think we had some of the conversations about discernment before. And I actually said to Pastor Sean Golladay sitting next to me, and I said, usually it's me. I'm the one picking out and going, be careful of that person. Be careful of that person. Or they're going to be good people. But this was Abigail. She saw a situation. She jumped in, and she actually diverted a problem. She was also very brave, very courageous in doing this. It's a pretty scary thing to do. She's coming up before David begging for mercy, basically, and saying, don't do anything bad. Please just, she's saying, forgive me. Forgive me. We've done the wrong thing by you. And she actually diverted a big disaster. And I think this is something as women that we can be. And I think one thing we talk about in leadership is being able to look ahead and see danger coming. And I think that that's a bit of a gift with women, that we can actually look down the road and we can go, the kids go on the playground and we're watching things they're doing. They keep doing that, they're going to fall and break their neck. So we'll go, don't do that, stop doing that, hold on, whatever we get them to do. Courageous, she's humble. She fell at his feet, she showed respect. She's a peacemaker. She stopped bloodshed through gentle but firm words. So she knew how to bring that conversation down. She knew how to, de-escalate. That's a word we use a lot. De-escalate the whole thing, because it was very heightened. It was way up here somewhere. There's about to be a big disaster, and she was able to use some words, use her humility, and she was able to bring that down to where it was a bit more civilised. She was faithful. She recognised God's hand in David's future kingship. So she understood that God's hand was on this man, and so she knew what she was doing. I've got another little story to sort of illustrate Abigail. Now, there's a lady that was in our church. We called her Auntie Betty. She's an Aboriginal lady. She's like 93 years old now. She, one of the most amazing people that I've actually ever met, because she'd had leprosy as a young person. She got healed back in the 60s. She got prayed for. She got healed. Her hands are like this. You know, she's got no fingers and she's got no toes because she actually lost them. She got healed before there was treatment for leprosy. So I know there is treatment now for leprosy around the world, but there was no treatment back in the 60s, and she just got miraculously healed. She was forced to marry a man who was a lot older than her. She was like 15 years old. I won't go into all the story, but he was an Aboriginal man. He was a drunk man all the time, would beat her up. There was terrible situations. She lived in the Northern Territory. It was a rough life for her. She suffered a lot of abuse. She was healed. She's an old lady now. So people say with Aboriginal people in Australia, if they can sort of get to about 60, they're probably quite senior. They're quite old at 60 because their lives... At 45, I think they're considered a senior citizen. So the fact that she's had such, the leprosy and everything like that, she was talking to a doctor who said, you're healthier than I am. But the big thing about Auntie Betty is her forgiveness. Now, her husband, as I said, there's lots of stories about things, but he basically was a lot of domestic violence, a lot of abuse going on there. But he got very sick, and they'd separated, but she always called him her golden nugget, because that was his nickname, is Nugget. And she'd go, my golden nugget, she'd call him. And anyway, he got cancer and he was dying. And so she goes up to see him. She takes one of her children. They go to visit him. And he's saying, Betty, you've got to forgive me. You've got to forgive me for everything I did to you. And she goes, oh, my golden nugget, I forgive you a long time ago. Because that's just the way she is, the way she talks. And over the years, we'd had lots of discussions with her. And the interesting thing about her was that people would talk about, one lady talked once about a boyfriend that her first boyfriend, he left her and she was devastated and really struggled to get over this first boyfriend that just walked away. And so she just launched into her story about her and Nugget and how she'd forgiven him and how she knew she had to move on. And it was really, really interesting to listen to that, because this girl's story was nothing compared to Auntie Betty's story. I mean, this guy threw a pot of hot soup on her to stop her going to church once. God did a miracle. Her skin didn't get burnt. It was a very amazing story. She went to church anyway. She goes, you can break both my legs, but I'm still going to church. And she's a great lady and just an amazing woman. And so I see a bit of an Abigail in her. She had a way of being able to just totally de-escalate a situation. So the lessons we can learn from Abigail, and any woman who wants to be an Abigail, we can be this. We can use our influence to bring peace and not conflict. We can bring humility and respect, can disarm anger and prevent disaster. So we should be able to see that and be the peacemaker. God honours wisdom, courage, and faith in difficult moments. Women can be powerful leaders by combining strength with grace. So I think the qualities that make Abigail effective is just her willingness, just to let God work through her, using her, her humility and her wisdom, her grace. So I think we should cultivate wisdom and courage like Abigail in our lives. And I think we can use Abigail's example to teach us about handling difficult people like Nabal. I think that's a really interesting point. Probably there could be a whole nother study just on that. But comparing the two women, we've got Delilah, manipulative. We've got Abigail, who is wise. We've got Delilah, who is self-serving. Abigail, servant-hearted. Delilah, motivated by money. Abigail, motivated by peace. Delilah betrayed Samson. Abigail saved her household. Delilah brought destruction. Abigail brought preservation. Delilah aligned with the enemies of God, but Abigail recognised God's plan. So going back to the behaviour, And I'm sure, if you're like me, you think of these and you start seeing pictures in your mind of people that are manipulative, or you see there might be a picture of a woman that you know that is wise and a servant-hearted. You might know somebody like that. So you start seeing pictures in your mind. But I always look at this as a challenge. What behaviours are you using to get what you want? I mean, both women wanted something. One wanted peace, but one wanted money. They both got what they wanted, and they used certain behaviours to get what they wanted. And so it's a challenge. I think it is a real challenge to think about how you get what you want. Do you manipulate to get what you want, or do you use wisdom to get what you want? Do you use peace, or do you use destruction? Do you use betrayal, or do you bring preservation? It's just a way to think of life, I suppose. So Delilah's story warns us of the dangers of temptation, selfishness and betrayal. Abigail's story inspires us to act with wisdom, courage and faith. Each day we can choose which path to follow. May we be like Abigail, using our influence to glorify God and to build up those around us. That's really all I have. Is there any questions or comments? Because they said there's...
I just want to know, is 1 Samuel for Abigail, is 1 Samuel what?
I'll find it again. 1 Samuel 25, 2 to 42. Any other comments, questions? We've got a few minutes. Sister. We all do it. We all have what I sort of say behaviours, but we all have our tricks to get what we need and what we want. It's whether it can be destructive or whether it can be lifting up and building up. I think that's the thing. We all do it. We all do it. Nobody can say they don't have behaviours. It's whether what we call behaviours of concern. Because we all use our behaviours, sister. Well, she was using wisdom here. So sometimes you can do the wrong thing for the right reason. Because I must admit, I actually think I asked that question as well. She's kind of going against her husband here, and it's kind of what we're not taught, taught not to do that. But there was obviously more to this, and if she had just left it, there would have been a big problem. There was going to be death, there was going to be people going to be killed, there was going to be a lot of problems there. And so by her stepping in, which is I guess where the courage comes in, she said, you know what, I need to do something here. I could sit there, but I need to do something. Yes. Yep. And it is. It's exactly right, discernment in this situation. She could have just gone, you know what, not my business, not my problem. My husband, he can make the decisions and just let him take the fall. She could have done that, but she obviously felt very strongly to step in here.
But in the situation when you're saying not my business, not my problem, what our husbands decide affects everybody.
That's right.
So if we're supposed to be the helper of our husbands.
That's right.
Brought us to be. So if we don't help them and guide them to make those proper decisions or change their minds in a way that will be more beneficial, then we also could be at fault because she was going to be destroyed along as well as the whole household.
That's right. So what does the Bible call wives? A helpmeet, which is exactly what she did here. Yes, and it's an interesting story. I think there's a lot to unpack, which because we don't have time today, sister.
If I was following correctly and I understand correctly too, wasn't her husband going to die if she didn't intercede? Like he was going to be killed.
Yep.
So I think in a way it was honoring him or protecting him in the household, not because she really agreed with what he did, but because she knew that ultimate
She was looking at the consequences. She was looking at the consequences and she's weighing it up. And she was looking out and over and thinking, you know, you look out and you can see things happening, and if it continues, there's going to be a big problem. And that's what she was doing, and she decided to act on that. So, Margie. Yep.
It wasn't nice to her and stuff, but she still saved his life.
That's right. Yeah, there's a lot in there. Yeah, so, yeah. That's the interesting thing about these two women. There's just so much to unpack. But I like to take them and see how it relates to us today. So, is that all we've got time for? Is there got a 10 minutes? There you go. So, is there, we can have an early minute, or if you want to keep talking. I think we'll have the early minute. Okay, thank you everyone. I really appreciate you.